All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 238. And today, this is technically a two-part vlog, so I want to talk about some stuff real quick, and then we'll get to the meat of stuff. So, real quick. First things first, just saw a video. Apparently, Skybound's Transformers comic is actually outselling literally every DC comic book on the market right now. Now, I sincerely doubt that is all of DC's comic books combined are selling less than Transformers. But I haven't looked into it or anything. I just found it interesting that Skybound's Transformers comic is doing really well. So I wanted to ask you guys, is anyone currently reading the Skybound Transformers comics? And if so, what are your opinions on the comic? Leave it in the comments down below. Second thing, right now there will be a link in the description because Humble Bundle has a Power Rangers Mega Bundle comic bundle right now. Basically, for $25, you get every single Power Rangers comic book published by Boom Studios. And the thing that some people may not be aware of is there was actually two different Power Rangers runs. There was Go-Go Power Rangers and then Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which Go-Go Power Rangers ended a little while ago. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers just ended. The comic series that is replacing it is called Power Rangers Prime, but you can literally get the entire run of Go-Go Power Rangers, of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, of a lot of the one-shot stuff like Soul of the Dragon and Power Rangers Unlimited, and just nonsense amounts of comic books for $25. Check it out. Okay, so now that we're done talking about comics and awesome stuff, I want to talk about the main purpose of this video, which is the controversy right now surrounding D&D Beyond and what's happening with the 2024 update. So right now, there is a lot of misinformation and outright lies about what's happening on D&D Beyond. I have seen everything from they're deleting all of the old stuff and forcing you to upgrade to the new stuff, to you're going to have to homebrew literally everything that you want. None of that is true. However, there is one particular thing that people are hyper fixating on to justify the outrage. I personally believe this is another kind of aspect of the same thing that fueled the OGL drama, the same thing that has been fueling the Wizards of the Coast hate for like 5 or 6 years now, and that is people don't like that D&D is popular. It's what it is. Combined with the fact that Hasbro as a company does not have a great track record, but people just want a reason to hate on Wizards of the Coast. However, there is a tiny grain of truth that I think people need to be aware of so that we actually can have a legitimate discussion and possibly get it fixed. Because this is the biggest issue I have with people that misunderstand things and then straw man argument things and then bring those complaints to D&D Beyond or Wizards of the Coast, because basically what you're doing is like, you're doing all these things I hate and you're horrible, fix it. And they'll go, we're literally not doing any of the things that you're doing. Yes, you are. I saw a crazy person on the YouTubes and they said that you're going to force me to homebrew the entire D&D 5th edition or pay you $7 million. This is highway robbery. We're literally, nothing about that statement is true, but the YouTube said it was. So, let's talk about what's actually happening. When the D&D Beyond update happens, which I believe is happening this next week, because the official launch of early access to the 2024 Player's Handbooks starts September 6th. So as of the recording of this video, September 6th is just under 2 weeks away. It's the 24th, which is a Saturday. September 6th is not next Friday, it is the Friday after. So we have 2 weeks until the new books drop, or the new book DMG won't be out until I think like November, and then the Monster Manual won't be out until January. So, what is happening then is before that happens, which the date that I have heard, I have not confirmed this or anything like that. I heard it from a trusted friend that this Tuesday is when they're going to start updating things through DnD Beyond. And the reason that they're doing it so early is because shit like this breaks stuff. Like, it's a good thing that they're doing it over a week early. Like, we want that. That's a very good thing. And everybody, again, the big controversy right now is everyone's like, well, they're just going to replace everything. And so all of the money that I have spent on D&D Beyond is just going to be worthless. And in order to use it again, I'm going to be forced to buy these new books. None of that is true. Everything that you have already purchased is still going to be on D&D Beyond. It's just going to be given a tag called the Legacy tag, which already exists. Here's a fun fact. There were 2 books that are significantly better than the books that replaced them. One was Volo's Guide to Monsters, and I can't remember the title of the other one. But they were both replaced with, what was it called? Or what is it called? Because it's still the book that you can actually look at. Fizzbands. Yeah, Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. That replaced 2 other books that were just better books. What I mean by that is Monsters of the Multiverse is monster stat blocks, and that's it. Like the entirety of the book, as far as lore is concerned, you might get a paragraph for some of the monsters, and that's it. Volo's Guide to Monsters was entire chapters talking about the monsters and where they fit in the lore and where they come from. It was an amazing source of knowledge for DMs. And those 2 books do not exist anymore on D&D Beyond. You cannot buy them. You cannot find them on the drop-down list. They simply don't exist. However, I owned both of those books before Monsters of the Multiverse came out. So because I own them already, I can find them in my personal vault, and all of the monsters that were in there that were eventually replaced by Monsters of the Multiverse still exist on D&D Beyond. They just have what's called the Legacy tab. So even when I'm like using the encounter builder, I can type in a name for a monster to look for it, and there'll be 2 versions of it. There will be like the Minotaur and then Minotaur Legacy. So the Legacy tag has existed for years. Basically everything in D&D 5.0, because most of the internet has kind of agreed on the idea that the 2024 update is D&D 5.5. So 5.0 is going to be given the Legacy tag, and the article that talks about this, the tweet that they made about it, all of them have a GIF that shows you opening up the character creator and scrolling down. You see all the character classes, then you scroll down, you see extended classes, which is where the artificer is, and you scroll down a little bit further and you see all the legacy classes. So all of the content that already exists on D&D Beyond is still going to be there, and it's still going to be available in the character builder, everything. It's just going to be referred to as legacy. So everyone that is claiming, well, now I'm not going to be able to use, I'm not going to be able to finish my campaign the way that I started it. No, none of that is true. Absolutely none of it is true. However, the thing that is changing, spells and items that have a newer version in the 2024 Player's Handbook, that where it's the exact same spell or the exact same item, is going to have the new version of it when you are in your character sheet and you hover over it to click on the spell, and the site will pop out and it'll give you the spell description. That will automatically be the newer version, if there is a newer version. Not absolutely everything, even in just the player's handbook, is getting updated. And we actually don't know what most of the updates are. Again, there are people that actually have the books, so we know a lot more than we used to. But no one has printed the entire thing. Well, I bet you it's out there somewhere. Let's put it that way. But we don't actually know absolutely everything, and not all the changes are going to be massive. From what I've read, one of the biggest changes is they change how healing works. Basically, again, according to what I've read, I have not seen the new book. So if I'm getting this wrong, correct me in the comments. And don't call me a hypocrite. From what I've heard, they basically just increased how much spells heal for, which isn't the greatest way to fix the fact that healing in 5th edition is pointless. But it's a step in the right direction, and it's probably the simplest fix they could have put in. So that, okay. So this is what people are getting. And then for weapons, like if you have a great axe in your inventory, in addition to just giving the description of great axe and the little description of what it is, it's also going to mention the weapon mastery feature, because all weapons have a weapon mastery feature in D&D 5.5. And this is what people are losing their minds about. Now, what happens if I don't want to use the new spells? I want to use the old spells? You can. And all of those things still exist. If you go to the compendium where literally everything is listed, all the different spells and everything like that, they will have all the legacy versions there. And the actual books themselves are still going to have the old spell text in them. So if you open up the 2024 Player's Handbook, go to the spells section and find the spell you want, it's still going to be there. The only change that is happening is in your character sheet. If you just mouse over or click on the spell, it's going to show you the new version by default. That is all that is changing. Now, I have been playing D&D, tabletop D&D, for well over a decade. I have literally thousands of hours of experience running games and playing games, but significantly heavily weighted in the running games department. I have run new player tables. I have run games entirely for dungeon masters. I have run tier 4 content, tier 3 content, tons of tier 2 content, and a ton of tier 1 content. I have played every version of 5th edition D&D that exists. I have run official adventures a ton. I have run homebrew stuff. I've run a lot of homebrew stuff. I've played at other people's tables that do homebrew stuff. I have published materials for D&D 5th edition through the DMs Guild. I am a platinum best-selling author on there. So believe me when I say this, people don't look up what their spells do. They just don't. We'd love them to. As Dungeon Masters, we absolutely would love them to do that. They just don't. It is so rare that a player will actually look up what their spell does before they cast it. It hurts. They just want to see what spells they have available. So all of the hullabaloo about people flipping shit about the idea that it's the spells are going to default to the new version is mostly just hot air and people wanting to be mad about something. And it's a very, very simple solution. You open up, like you go to DnD Beyond, and at the top, you will see all these things. You'll see D&D Beyond, search everything and all the different stuff there. Just below that, you'll see a bunch of words with arrows next to them. Collections, game rules, sources, blah, 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 blah. If you mouse over game rules, you'll see classes, backgrounds, races, and then a bunch of other things. Feats, spells, equipment, magic items, monsters. You click on the spells button, and it brings up every spell that has ever existed. You can search by class, you can search by spell name, you can search by spell level, you can search by spell school, you can search by casting time, and then there's advanced filters. Things like spell tags, what save it uses, what kind of attack it does. You can find any spell you want, and you can use multiple things. If you want to find all of the verbal-only spells for paladins, you can do that. And when the update goes into effect, on this list, not hunting into the player's handbook, on this specific list, you will have the regular version, or the new updated version, and the legacy version. And it's right there. It's unbelievably simple, unbelievably easy. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is how I look up spells when I am running a game. Because every so often, I will have a player go, hey, can I use this spell to do this? And I'll go, give me a second. And I will go in, and I will look up the spell text itself. Because I want to know specifically what the spell says before I make a ruling on it. It takes me a minute, barely, to do this because it's an unbelievably useful interface. And the thing that takes the longest time for me is because generally when I'm running a game, I'm not just running a game. I have a Roll20 game up, I have Zoom open, and I am streaming. So my bandwidth gets very limited, and so it takes a little while for the page to load. That is the longest process in this entire thing, is waiting for the page to load. So as much as, yes, what people are describing here is an actual problem. The fact that all the spells on your character are going to be automatically updated to the new version of the spell is a bit of a problem if you don't like the new spells. However, the only way that becomes a problem is if you actually read your spells, which 90% of you have never done. The reason people are claiming, oh, we're going to have to homebrew everything. Well, there's a very easy workaround. If you do want your old spells to show up when you click on it as opposed to the new one, the incredibly simple workaround is on your character sheet, you can just add spells. And so all you do is you add a spell, you copy the text from the old spell in there, and you just have a homebrewed spell in there. It's unbelievably simple and easy. That's what people are freaking out. It's like, oh, it's going to require me to recreate the entire... It's not. Nothing about that is true. However, this is a legitimate concern. The reason why I don't believe that most of the hullabaloo is legitimate and it's just people looking for to be angry is because the idea that the latest version of the spell is the one that is defaulted to isn't new. This is how D&D Beyond has worked since the beginning. You want to know how I know that? Because every single errata that has ever been created for every single book is automatically updated instantly. So if you want to use, like, I have original printings of the Player's Handbook. I don't have them up here. Like the books behind me are either the second or third printing. Like the Player's Handbook there. I can't remember which one it is, but I believe it's the second or third printing of it. And the reason why is the original printing of all three of the books, the Player's Handbook, the DMG, and the Monster Manual, had a binding issue to where after about, I want to say it's like 6 months to a year, your pages would just start falling out. Because the quality of the bind was just not good. And so because of that, all you had to do years ago was you would email Wizards of the Coast, go, hey, my Player's Handbook is falling apart. They go, send us pictures, and you take pictures, and then they would just send you all new copies of the book. So I have 2 copies of all of the core books, of the original core books of D&D 5th edition, because my original ones were started falling apart. They didn't get to the point where I lost any pages, so they're still complete. But what that means is I have the pre-errata versions of the Player's Handbook with all of the issues contained within. And I have the newer version that has the errata automatically added in. So, if on D&D Beyond, I look at the player's handbook, I'm not going to see the same text that is in my original player's handbook because they automatically change the errata. When Tasha's Cauldron of Everything updated the Blade Singer and all the Blade Singer spells, if you were playing a Blade Singer or had one of the Blade Singer spells, it automatically updated it to the Tasha's version as opposed to the one that was in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. This has always been how it works. For literally a decade, this is how it's worked. Or maybe, I don't think DnD Beyond has been around for a decade, but since the beginning. I remember when Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide came out, and then I remember when Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out, and how they changed one of the most exploitable spells in there was Booming Blade. And a lot of rogues would take Booming Blade and just do shit tons of damage with it. And so they changed the wording of it a little bit to work better. And I think they also did the same thing with Green Flame, and I don't think Swordburst needed it, but Green Flame Blade did. So the idea that this is this horrible new thing that they're trying to force, no, this is how the system has always worked. People just weren't angry at Wizards of the Coast then. They were still riding on the high that D&D 5th edition was the best version of the D&D that anyone had ever seen. Before anyone bites my head off about that, I'm referring to that's what the mentality was way back when. D&D 5th edition was massively popular. The only people that didn't like it were mostly Pathfinder bros. There were people that had stuck playing original D&D that started coming back for 5th edition. There were 2nd edition players that had never moved on to 3rd edition or 4th edition that started playing 5th edition. There were 3rd edition players and 3.5 players that came back after not moving on with D&D 4th edition. And the vast majority of the 4th edition audience embraced 5th edition with very little problem whatsoever. D&D was the first edition that actually brought people back all the way from like the basic sets and original D&D. It was extremely popular and everybody loved it when it first launched. That's what I'm referring to here. Is it the absolute best RPG that's ever been designed? We can argue about that later. Thank you, phone. So, with all of that, what do we need to do? First things, and then for the equipment and stuff like that, this is a massive nothing burger, because the weapons themselves, like, there are a decent amount of spells that are actually changing how they work to work with the new magic system and everything like that, from what I've read. Again, I haven't seen the books yet. I'm waiting until I can actually read them as opposed to just getting everything secondhand. So it's possible that this has been blown out of proportion as well, but I kind of doubt it. I do remember when I was looking at playtest stuff, they were making some pretty decent changes. So that I think is fairly accurate. So yeah, spells are changing. That's a big issue. It's going to mechanically change how the game works. Weapons and things like that, the things that's changing is they're adding additional information. They're adding weapon mastery to all of them. If you don't use weapon mastery rules, it doesn't affect how they play. It doesn't affect mechanically how they work in D&D Beyond. Nothing changes for weapons. The big change is going to be there's additional text on there that tells you what the weapon mastery effect is if you can use it. Because again, not all classes have access to weapon mastery, so they have to be able to use them without weapon mastery. It's just additional information. So that is a big old nothing burger. The thing with the spells, it might be an issue. And what one of my players is doing, because we're going to be playing Wednesday night, as long as my brain doesn't explode again, we're going to be playing Wednesday night, which might happen. Again, I don't know when the update's happening because I haven't looked. But what I've been told is Tuesday is the day that they're talking about. Do not quote me on that. Find an official source. I do not know. But what one of my players is doing is he's literally just going to print out a PDF of his character sheet just in case something goes wrong with D&D Beyond. And you 100% can do that. You can use hard copies if you need to look up a spell. It's not that difficult. You can use the spell lookup system and find the legacy version of the spell. The only thing this is limiting you is if while you are playing, you click on the spell and read the text. That is the only thing this is listening. And again, as a DM with literally thousands of hours of experience running with hundreds of players, you don't do that. Trust me on this one. I know what I'm talking about. So, like I said, this is an issue. But the issue that is being brought up is not real. What the real issue is the idea that you really should be able to leave the legacy things in place for people that don't want to use the new stuff. And to be perfectly honest, because the SRD won't be released until February of next year, access to the new spells should be limited to people that have actually paid for them. So for anyone that hasn't actually paid for them, either they're going to be getting things for free, which isn't something that I would expect Wizards of the Coast to do, or there's going to be a simple way for them to see the old text. Like, I sincerely doubt you're going to open up your character sheet and it's going to go, pay us $40 to be able to access your character sheet. That's never going to happen. So, yeah, like I said, there is some truth to the outrage. And the truth to the outrage is on your character sheet, your spells are going to be updated to the new one, which most of the people that I have talked to have liked most of the new spells. So it may be that you prefer the new spells too. Or you may not. And all the stuff is still going to be there from before. And again, 90% of people don't look at their spells. They look at the spell list and what the spell name is, and they either already know what the spell does, or what happens much more often than it should, they look at the spell name and assume what it does. And then they get mad when the DM goes, that's actually not how the spells works. I had one player, really, really cool dude. He was playing a Shadow Monk, and he cast Darkness on a stone and took it with him, and was walking around going, well, I have advantage on all my attacks. I said, no, you don't. Yes, I do. I said, no, you're in magical darkness. You can't see. But I cast it. Yeah, but it's the darkness spell. You can't see through your own darkness. Really? Yeah, no, you can't see through your own darkness. He's like, oh, I kind of built the entire character around that idea. I said, yeah, technically, if you want to do that, the easiest way to do it is you have to take 2 levels of Warlock, which isn't the greatest thing in the world because it takes away from your martial arts die progression and a few other things. So it's not great, and I think we were playing at like level 6 or level 7. So he would actually lose things like Stunning Fist and that to be able to do that. She's like, oh man, that really sucks. I said, it's how it works. It's still a massively useful ability. It's just not the broken mess that you want it to be. It's like, damn. Well, and this was a one shot. I said, can I, like, I built the entire character around this. Can I change some stuff? I'm like, yeah, just do it quick. Because we were also streaming the game. I said, do it quick. But if you want to be like an elemental monk or something like that, go for it. I need to see the character sheet before I allow it. And that was all it took. Yeah, like I said, this is mostly a nothing burger, but it does have some truth to it. And if we want it to be fixed, we actually have to approach the D&D Beyond devs specifically, because this is not a Wizards of the Coast thing. This is a D&D Beyond thing. Yes, they own it, but this is a coding thing. This is not, Hasbro mandating that we must. No, this is just how coding works. And like I said, this is how the system has always worked. Anyone that's claiming that this is new for this doesn't know what they're talking about. This is how the system has always worked. So in order to change it, we actually have to talk to the D&D Beyond devs, and we have to tell them what's actually going wrong. We have to go, hey, we really don't like the fact that characters that we built before are going to be defaulted to spells that we never picked because they're new versions of spells. And so that is something that they actually can fix. But the idea of, I can't believe you guys are forcing us to buy, the devs are just going to go, we're not. But I can't use my old character sheets. You absolutely can. There's nothing stopping you. Yes, but you're going to force me to homebrew everything. No, we aren't. None of this is true. And if those are the complaints you're going to bring to them, they're just going to go, oh, look, crazy people. Or look, internet trolls that we don't need to listen to. Remember the whole thing of don't feed the trolls? That's what's going to happen here, is if everybody freaks out about something that's not true, it's never going to get fixed because people are going to be complaining about problems that don't exist. I can't believe you're forcing me to sacrifice my firstborn just so I can play a warlock. We never said that. In fact, we don't have a system to measure firstborn sacrifices. Like we don't have a way to know any of that. Why would you think we would do that? Well, the YouTubes said that. Well, the YouTubes is wrong. That is not something that has ever been a part of this game. Please go away and perhaps have a conversation with someone if you were legitimately considering sacrificing your firstborn for a board game. It's just, we need to be clear. This is why internet outrage is so damaging and dangerous. Not because of, people getting their feelings hurt, but because legitimate problems can't be solved when a bunch of lies and misinformation are being thrown around to get people angry. So, yes. If anyone has more information on the update, and I don't want... my friend said that he talked to John Dungeons and Dragons and was told directly from, the owner of Dungeons and Dragons that this is how it works. No. If you've read an article from D&D Beyond or Wizards of the Coast or something, an official first-party source that has specifically stated, hey, the upgrade is happening on this date, feel free to mention that in the comments below. Leave a link to the actual article itself. And only that. In fact, I'm gonna rephrase that. Don't leave a link to the article. The only links that I generally allow on in my chat are going to be links to other YouTube videos because I know they're safe. And even if a link looks legitimate, I can't be 100% certain they're safe, and I don't want to accidentally be sending people to bad websites and stuff like that. So just mention the search terms you used or something that says officially when the upgrade is going to be happening. Yeah, like I said, there is a legitimate problem here. But the discourse right now isn't going to get it solved. In fact, the discourse right now is going to make it significantly worse. So if we want this legitimate problem change, which I think probably is not an extremely difficult change for them to make, we have to air the correct grievances. So, anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Do you think it's as blown up as I do? Or am I missing some aspect? Like I said, I had a player that was freaking out about this, and I linked them the an article from D&D Beyond and go, literally everything you're saying here is wrong. It's like, yeah, but lots of people are getting mad about it. Yeah, lots of people get mad about a lot of things that aren't real. I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again. That's how internet culture works. People will jump to conclusions and make up shit that was never real. So after doing a lot of research on this, I finally found the tiny kernel of truth within the outrage. So, yeah. Anyway, it's all for me today. See you guys tomorrow. All right? Bye-bye.